Hi, everybody. Another Thursday night. I hope everybody's doing well and enjoying some of the spring weather that we don't have very often, but it must be going on everywhere else other than Ottawa and Montreal. We've had our share of kind of very strange weather. So, this is a question from Jennifer Butler. Thanks again for everybody who sends in questions. And if some of you are thinking I haven't got to them, I've got uh, you're on the list, and we only have about 4 or 5 questions, so it's not a plethora of questions. So Jennifer says, I had an interesting dream that sparked this question. I think I'll throw my glasses on just in case I misread it, Jennifer. In what may be called a gyroscope, sorry about that. In what way might a gyroscope be a metaphor and or a demonstration of a movement of energy in us? Okay, here's the dream. In the dream, a hand placed a device that looked like a stylus pen to my right temple. I could feel the pressure, which brought me to a sleep-wake state. It moved through my head to the left side, and then I had an image of a circular shape around the perimeter of my head, and I thought, gyroscope. So Jennifer looked up the meaning of gyroscope, and here's what it says. A device consisting of a wheel or disc mounted so that it can spin rapidly about an axis, which is itself free to alter in direction. The orientation of the axis is not affected by tilting of the mounting. So gyroscopes can be used to provide stability or maintain a reference direction in navigational systems, automatic pilots, and stabilizers. In this particular case, some of you may remember me talking about energy coming outside the temples on either side out to about 6 or 8 inches to the sides. That's the gyroscope of the throat center. Not very often talked about, but kind of, let's say, expressed a little bit in various ways of talking about the throat center. However, this center here is these two centers that relate to the internal structure of the brow, the crown, and the throat center, along with a part of the heart center. What begins to happen is a system can be set up individually for the purpose of engaging with higher states and, let's say, with no deference to the personality. That's one way to say. In other words, energy moving through a system that has been developing on a throat center basis and a brow center, but a throat center basis, so that this throat center can be literally fused with the root gonad solar plexus structure, so that the personality itself can be helped not to interfere with energy moving in the system through higher states or from higher states. I'm afraid that no one likes to hear that kind of talking because our particular way of engaging with life on this planet is geared so that the individual is in charge of all things, so that it feels comforted and it feels classically in charge. So there has to be a link up in there if there's going to be a relationship with a higher state. There has to be a link up within the personality structure so that in the early going, the personality is not offended or fearful or really bloomin' scared. Fearful is a nice word. About what's going on inside them and around them. As I've talked many times, sometimes the throat center has been considered pivotal in relationship to a link that would relate to the higher states and engage with these lower states, personalized states, in such a manner as to be helpful to others. And this seems to be slightly outside of the way we normally think of being in charge and helping others. It's a dilemma. You have to ask yourself a question. Certainly, I do. Do you want people to be nervous about losing control of their system? Because that's the way it sounds. But it's not like that. It's more in relationship to forming a relationship with a higher state on a conscious level deeper than the level of relationship you already have with the higher state. You already have a relationship with a higher state that gives you a kind of loving energy or energy that relates to you loving you. In our personality states, we have them in a kind of a way that we believe we need to have them. And that, of course, includes a tremendous amount of unknowing on our part. This unknowing is basically involved with the construction of our personality. We move through our early ages, through all kinds of experiences, some good, some not so great, from our perspective. And we are trying to work our way through life in a manner that makes some sense to us relative to the ability we have to make sense of how we believe we should be. And we have sometimes tact when we're dealing with ourselves. And sometimes we don't have very much tact at all because we have reflexes that are really in a kind of a way in charge of us because we have used them continuously in certain ways and have a kind of pseudo logic about the need that we have to do so. I don't mean to put down anybody's logic, but it's kind of an emotional, mental, even physical, reflexive response to life that we've cultivated over the amount of years that we've been here on this planet. Currently, yes, other timelines have an effect on that. No doubt about that. But we're not very conscious of how we function. But we believe we're very conscious of how we function. It's a dilemma. In old traditions, many times, metaphysical traditions, they talk about, oh, we're lucky enough to have anywhere from 10 to 20% of awareness of what we're actually doing. I don't know how the numbers are. I don't care what the numbers are. But I do care about one thing. If we can be aware a little bit more of how we function, we're going to be touched by what we see. That little bit more, that difference, will bother us to some degree. I have the next question from Chris McLaughlin in Nashville. And along the same line, I could have a question from Ron along the same line. Why did I respond that way? Well, tucked in some of the shingles of the years, not a disease, every shingle is a year, and is repetitive reflex reactions that have occurred prior to a moment where you might use one. It will be right there, thinking, or let's say, intuiting or responding automatically as if it knows exactly what to do. And in fact, that changes from person to person. There's no negation in this. It's a relationship with how we've constructed a form, a personality, a form of energy, or let's say methodology, that makes some sense to us as we can allow ourselves to perceive what that is. So if we can't perceive very much about what that is, then we'll miss a bit. If we can perceive just enough to be comfortable, then we won't be uncomfortable because we've limited a certain way of perceiving. Now, we haven't done it consciously, it's just occurred that way. And it's partly training. You would rather see yourself in one particular way than another. Well, these systems that literally are like this, out to about here, going right into the mind, if stimulated, if constructed, with energy slightly different than the root gonad solar plexus energy, which implies the throat center is opened a little bit differently than it had been opened before, or the brow, or it could be the crown center, just a bit different. Even the solar plexus, even the chest, even the gonad center, even the root center. If it's opened a little bit differently, it may cultivate a movement within the throat center so it can allow these small centers that penetrate all through or seem to penetrate all the way through. And then energy can operate this way or the opposite way through that pivotal structure here at the dowager's hump, the shoulders, and the clavicles, which, if it does open a little bit more, the throat center, a little bit more, it can cause a movement into this area, and it can open here, as well as moving towards the back, up and around and into the brow, which stimulates energies right here, small little centers. This you can go and do research on. It won't tell you what they're for, but they'll say little center. The Hindus have shown them in relationship to Kundalini movement, or energetic, elongated chains of force that fuse a link between the root center and the top of the head. I'll leave it there for right now. And then you can perceive your brow opening a little bit more on the right-hand side, or in some cases, it may open on the left-hand side just a little bit more. And when it does that, then you have a little bit more stimulation to the sides, and that links up with energy coming up from the back of the neck and straight up over your head. It can go up there. I can only say a couple of feet. Sorry, guys. That's all I can recognize. So, in that, you are then cultivating activity above the diaphragm. Immediately, it makes you feel nervous, vulnerable a bit. It can stretch your normal way of doing things, in other words, defending self, in such a way that you don't even feel that you can defend yourself. Therefore, you're very vulnerable. But your throat center is opened more, and it's linking up to bring together a receptibility to a higher state, so that that higher state can come in to be helpful in that vulnerability, in that vulnerable spot, as well as eventually in that series of places, many of them, where you comfort yourself by habitual responses that have been going on since the time of your birth. Sounds like a whole lot of detail. It is. But if you memorize this detail, it doesn't do anything. The only reason for it is if something happens, like this dream in Jennifer's dream, or Chris's internal responses, then what you're looking at is something shifting in you. And then there's a period of trying to make sense of things. And this is uncomfortable for most of us. So, slow and easy. Very important statement. Take it easy. When you find yourself overreacting, talk yourself down. If you engage in a responsive way that is different than how you normally engage, you may be stretching internally in the baseline structures, root gonad, solar plexus, and where they have touched inside you. You may be stretching that, and that means you're in a movement towards broadening out your understanding of you. And you will become more sensitive. This is called spiritual growth. One aspect of it, definitely. And you're preparing all the time. to engage with a broader engagement with a higher state, not for your own purposes, because you can see your vulnerabilities and you wonder, are there more? It could be, but they're not negative. They're just vulnerabilities, and they touch us, especially emotionally. You have some things that you can do. For many years, I've asked you to try and turn the hands on, put the hands out as far as you can if you're going to do balancing underneath the armpits, so that, and I know you can't see that, but I've got them out there underneath the armpits the best I can. So you can make a little pod, energetic pod off the body, where you have engaged with the hands. If you've opened them, engaged with them, and all, you get to the point where you just have to think them. And then you know what your hands look like. Then with two hands, roll them over. And while your hands are doing something else, it takes a little bit of practice. But if you feel vulnerable inside, that practice is very important. If you are growing, these practices are important because they help. You can do a internal verbal thing. It's simple. Keep it easy and simple. Mean it. Easy. And you're talking to yourself. Slow things down. Easy does it. Little at a time. So you can get used to it. Get used to it. It is 10 chances to 1. Every single one of us in every level of growing will forget to do something that might be helpful, but will not forget to react. Will not forget to intensify our expressions that relate to something we don't like. But we'll forget to attempt to be helpful. Well, I was helpful. I did that. I did this. And it just didn't work. How many times did you defend against feeling not very good because something had shifted inside? Oh, as many times as possible, because it's reflexive. How many times did you do the other thing? Well, once, maybe twice. If it becomes reflexive that you can turn your hands on and turn them to you to ask for sincere help in you, meaning it, because often this is related to the emotional disposition. Because on our planet, it's really the thing that all of us are a part of. We use that to even create logic in our minds. Or we know what it is. We don't know what it is. We don't have a perfect answer in our responses. We have an answer that we've already protected reflexively. But it's based on a stirring and an expression of what has gone before. Chris very wisely said, could this be something that happened? Am I replicating something here? Absolutely. As we all have and will at every movement, until something within us allows us to quiet down from time to time. This is really important, that time to time business. And allows us to see that it's quiet and recognize that it's okay not to be feeding that emotional template all the time. We do that anyway, and we will. Also, there's a mental template where you can watch just like you're watching a movie. The Throat Center will help with this. Both Chris and Jennifer's questions are involved with this. And one thing you can do if it gets a little too intense, you could slow your breathing down a little bit. Take a deep breath. Don't think of anything. Just let go. And then you can say, easy does it now. It's okay. And then try and soften down your body. You can check your body out. Your body will tell you what feels comfortable to you. If you're intense, your body will be stiffer. If you need to have control of everything, your body will be stiffer. It's always on guard. If you can soften it down, it will help. It won't be perfect because none of us are perfect. We're in a kind of process that allows us to move just beyond the last part where we were, whatever that is. And a lot of sense of humor might be helpful. It's worthwhile. I remember a guy named, a psychologist named Cousins, who had a bout with cancer, and cancer eventually won, but Norm Cousins. And he always said, he went to Laurel and Hardy. He was one of those older guys, who remember Laurel and Hardy or Abbott Costello or some kind of humorous group of people or person. And he listened to them and laughed his head off. He began to feel better. And he continued to feel better for some time. And he always attributed the softening down of himself inside to the humor that he sought out, because it was important to allow himself to smile beyond what his difficulties allowed him to smile. His difficulties were not allowing him to smile at all. He was like everybody else would be, nervous or scared or whatever you want to call it. Any change in us causes us to tense up. And in our intensity, we perceive things with more rigidity than we would if we were looking at it from a softer perspective. I'm not telling you anything that you don't already know. In life, you perceive this, I'm sure. But it's not easy to remember something you don't really pay close attention to. It's just normal that would be true. So I would say in both questions of Jennifer's and Chris McLaughlin's, change is occurring internally. I would mention that I think, from my perspective, it's that throat center. And it is extremely valuable in the process of growing. If you can do the pump as if you're not doing the pump, even if you're sitting down or at work or engaging with someone, Let your mind do the pump and you pay attention to what's going on as you're engaging. You pay attention to your work or to the other person, and still you're doing the pump. It will tend to soften things down a little bit. One codicil about this. If you do the pump, you're going to be almost automatically redirecting intensity from the other person or other people, which means you will increase the flow in you. Therefore, it's possible that you may notice that you're intensifying inside and begin to focus on the lower system, on your personalizations. For example, if you are giving yourself a hard time, you will increase your capability to give you a hard time, not because you're trying to, but because the lower system is doing its job. And things of that nature, the nature of how we normally act, are stimulated. And they're stimulated so that you, as a growing being, can begin to see what goes on in you until you get to the point where you can, oh yeah, that's what I do. Okay, all right, okay, as long as I know that's what's happening. Oh yeah, okay, I think I've done that before, yeah, and I do that under these, okay, so this is my response to something. Okay, I'm responding to that, I think. Or I'm wondering, oh, I can feel that neck area. Okay. Or I can feel some weird stuff going on around here. That means the throat center is linking and with the brow and pulling another state in ever so slightly. And it will feel like, holy mackerel. The energy is really heavy today. I've heard people say that, and I say, wow, that's fantastic. Eventually, that same heavy energy feels like as if it's a cloud of nothingness, but it's all around you. Eventually, that gets to be that way. I know right away, as soon as I say that, people are going to say, well, my energy is like a cloud. Well, I hope it is. But the issue is the personality is always engaged with its own validation. If you can understand that, then you can say to yourself, nobody else, my God, my personality is validating me. I'm validating myself in this. Okay, do I need to? Yeah, maybe this time. Next time, or maybe not. Maybe I don't have to validate myself as much there. The energy itself, where you focus the energy, goes to it and helps you to see it better so that you become a seer of you, a seer of others, and you start to notice that your fellow human beings are doing very similar things, their version, to you. You don't have to believe that. The best, in my opinion, would be to notice it when you're doing it. I'm doing this and I'm doing this. I do that because this is part of what I do to be okay with me, to comfort me, to make me be okay as an individual from my perspective. Every individual on this planet does the same thing. Relatively speaking, 8 billion people have a different, kind of a similar and a different version of how to function that way. That doesn't make yours better than them. And it doesn't make theirs better than yours. But it is interesting when you start seeing what that flow inside of you is helping you to see. Because you're building a trust between it and you. Oh, this is, oh my goodness, I must have missed that one. Huh. We miss a pile. So none of this is negative. It is an increase in perception. Learning how to understand that that's what it is, and giving yourself a break, and being okay with understanding how you function generally, at least to some degree. You're just going to work through it. That's what everybody's doing, trying to figure it out. Not extra special. Let me see if I left anything out of here. I think you're hoping I didn't. Maybe I'm hoping I didn't. Okay, let's see. Oh yeah, that increase in flow will move you towards a new balance point. The dilemma with moving you towards a new balance point, any of us, is that after a short period of time, the old balance point, the favored one, the true favored one, will start coming back. Know that it will try. Know that it doesn't have to. But know also, if it's needed, it can always come back. So you're learning in increments of engagement. If you keep this all through your life, and you get to understand this, then you get also to help yourself be okay. Is it okay if I was grumpy last week? Is it okay if I was grumpy this morning? Yes, it is. Because grumpy is part of your kit bag, the thing you carry around with you all the time for use under certain conditions, especially when you're feeling grumpy. Treat it with respect. You don't have to agree with it. It's not necessary. But you don't have to put it down. It will be useful in some way, some place, relating to your comfort as an individual, some part of life. You'll then interact with it, and you may not use it the same way. You might be talking to somebody and say, I really feel grumpy today, and boy, I think that what you just said was miserable. Or you might do what you did before. Or you might say, oh, that's interesting. Are you really trying to be mean to me? Because that's what it sounded like. These are all little things you can say. And personalities will grab onto those and say them. But when you're doing this sincerely, it's a totally different tree. It's not the same thing. Be sincere with yourself. And be honest with yourself. That means you don't have to tell everybody what's going on inside you. Let them find out internally what's going on inside them. Be respectful of other people, but also be respectful of you. When you're putting yourself down, you're not really respectful. You're really saying you're judging you, And we all have that in us. When you notice it, try and soften it down. Nobody's perfect. And nobody else is perfect either. You're not. They're not. Okay, I think I talked about that enough. Oh, Jennifer's, you remember Jennifer's dream related to the throat center. Now, her second part is uh, I've been having a harder time tolerating noise, chatter, and imagery going through my head. Until recently, it was easy to notice, accept, and allow in meditation throughout my day and throughout my day. But lately, I feel a growing need to turn it off, but I don't see how or know if it's even possible. I also sometimes feel sensitive to external sounds and feel the need to wear earplugs to reduce my reactions and feelings of being overloaded. This is a dilemma with the throat center once again, and the emotional mind. That throat center comes on, it affects the solar plexus root gonad center, as I said before. It increases the stimulation in your mind. So, one of the things you can do is recognize that your defenses are being turned up just a little so you can hear how you respond to things sometimes. Well, sometimes you don't want to hear it. And that is absolutely the way everybody is. But listen to it and say, wow, I do this. Wow, this is really interesting. I wonder if that comes from my past. Yeah, sure. Ours comes from our past. Yours may come from yours. But the issue is it's the response mechanism trying to slow you down. And you don't have to be slowed down. If it can turn your head towards this is not, I don't like these sounds, I don't like this, I don't like that. Hear the defensive aspect. I mean, if it were defensive, that's a defensive aspect. Your defensive polish how important you were before in how you functioned. It's always true of all of us. This is disturbing if you really think about it. Defenses are telling you maintain your position and place because if you don't, somehow bad things will occur. Throat center is saying you will become more sensitive. Even your hearing. Throat center governs the hearing process. And when this begins to occur, if you can just soften a bit and then move, let's say, to do the pump or the balancing, literally just a little higher than here, just a little bit, because remember, these systems are a part of that throat center, very important. Just a little higher with the hands on and stretch them out a little bit. And then, if your hands have been practiced being on, they will tell you where to come. They'll draw you close if you need it close. They'll push you to the middle. You'll want to push farther. You'll get the sense that they don't want to go there. All this kind of thing, be careful with. The personality can take charge of that as well. It's really fantastically clever. It's not negative. It's supposed to be clever. So we can function here. So there's no negation of my saying it. It just happens that way. The tongue and the mouth will open and it will defend like crazy. You'll notice that. And the intensity will be there to validate it. Because you have to punctuate. You have to underline stuff if it's really real. Maybe not. Okay, so let's see. Did I say? No, I think I Got that now? Then how does one manage intense physical energy during meditation? I've been experiencing strong jolts going through my right leg and sometimes my arms, which is a new one, that makes it hard for me to meditate. It's really uncomfortable and makes me want to give up. Um, this does happen in meditation from time to time, especially if the system is opening just a little bit more. You know, the basic reference point between prayer, meditation, mantras, this kind of a thing, is to get you to go into kind of a semi-alpha state, which means to allow energy to operate into the places that only allow so much energy to operate through them. But that energy then, if you relax those places, more energy can operate through, and you can stretch your ability to handle more frequency of maybe differing levels other than the physical. But the physical is important as well. I know lots of people have said the physical is not important. It's a really terrible thing. But sorry, we have one. Those energies come in. I would not hesitate to say that through the chakras into the endocrine gland system, it affects the whole body, the brain, and the brain sends out feelers to receive information and pull it back up, sends out feelers, pulls it back in. And that includes emotion. Strange thing. It includes listening to others. It includes a sensing that is way beyond our physical form's natural ability. And many have had different levels of that. Some people are really interested in checking out a person's personality. Why they would want to do that, I don't know. But anyway, and want to make judgments about it. Another level is to perceive where those chakras are and let go of yourself inside the best you can. Can't do that all the time. So that energy can operate through to be helpful where help is needed in another person, not where the individual thinks they need it. But there are many ways of looking at that as well. We feel very comforted. The more information we have, the better. We feel as if we're valuable somehow. There's also a relationship with just watching what's going on in and around and through us, so that we begin to understand that there's more to this form and the formulation of this form than what we normally understand and what is easier for us to engage with, relatively speaking, because all levels of engagement here on this plane are effectively there. Mind, emotion, and body. And a deeper level of which many people have named all kinds of levels. Unfortunately, we also have this strange interaction with assessing other people and telling them where they are and where they aren't. You don't want to hurt someone who is judging you on a physical, emotional level if you understand that they need that to make sure that they feel okay in their life. But if they learn differently, they'll find out they don't need that judgmental base as much as they thought they did. And then a different engagement with energy can begin to occur. Sometimes an individual will lose a certain perception level because they used to depend on that level before. And if that doesn't slip away a little bit, they will still be depending on that same level. Doesn't mean the level is bad. Doesn't mean they're bad. It just means it's time to move on to a different kind of cycle, trying to help you to understand deeper than you could before. It's very difficult for most people. Consider all of us growing. Our personalities are very important to us. If indeed you engage with higher states, the next state will be you having all these ideas, all this understanding, and thinking you're very important because it is in you. That's another level. Eventually, you know the difference and you shift to another level. You know and you understand, but that old stuff still touches you. But you still know and understand that there's something different. You may not know what it is perfectly, but there is something different. So slowly, you begin to deepen your relationship with an understanding that is slightly different than what you could have before. And these are cycles of growing, and they continue for it's not about time, for many levels. We like it in our world to be sincerely placed so we can placate ourselves. I'm almost saying placate ourselves, but I thought I better not. Bad jokes. Into positions and places and then make us feel relatively valuable. We still have that deep need because we've needed it when we were younger. And within us still lies the youth of that need. And this makes us relatively, no offense to anybody, young in our development. But don't think that that youthfulness is a bad thing. Because if you can get to understand that, then that opens the door for more curiosity, more willingness to recognize and allow perhaps other ideas to flourish and even change after they're flourished. They've flourished. And mete out a different understanding. And that is a wonderful thing. That is preparation for the next level, whatever next level it is that must occur in you, in me, in anyone, to go beyond, just a little bit beyond where you were before. So please be kind to yourself in your growing and respectful, less judgmental if you can. But you don't have to agree with you all the time. If you do, you'll be sitting back in that same old position until that energy that has already been in you shows you that you are doing that. And then you'll say, my God, I'm doing that. Isn't that interesting? Instead of beating yourself up for doing something that you've done for a long time. I think I'll say this, I think some of your question, Chris, was kind of personal, and I think if you'd like to talk personally about some of this, the reason why I talk generally about both yours and Jennifer's questions is really because I thought it might be a little bit too personal. But I don't mind talking personally to you. If you send me an email that you'd like to do that, maybe we can connect and we can chat about it. Thank you, everybody, for listening. And we'll go on now and do a meditation. Have a meditation for roughly about 50 minutes to an hour. I wish everybody really well. And please take care of yourselves. Bye for now.
वदन्य आदित्या अभयं वरदो दैवत गणः त्वमेका नैवासि प्रकटितं वराभीत्यं भिनः भयात्रातुं दातुं फलमपि च वाञ्छा समधिकम् शरण्ये लोकान् तव हि चरणं वेवनिपुः धनुः पुष्पं मौर्विमधुकरम् मयि पञ्च विशिखा वसन्त सामन्तो मरन् मरुदायो धनरथम् तथापेकः सर्वं किमितिरिश्रुते कामपि कृपाम् अपाङ्गास्ति लब्ध्वा जगदिदमनङ्गो विजयते सुधासिन्धो मध्ये सुरवितति वाटिं परिवृते मणिद्वीपे नीपोपवनवती चिन्तामणि गृहे शिवाकारे परमशिव पर्यन्तविजया भजन्ति त्वां धन्या कतिचन चिदानन्दलहरी मही मूलाधार भवति मणिपुरे उतवः स्थितं स्वाधिष्ठाने हृदि मरुतमाकाशमुपरि मनोऽपि ब्रूमति सकलमपि भित्वा कुलपथम् सहस्रारे पत्नी सह रहसि पत्या विहरसि चतुर्भिः श्रीकण्ठे शिवयुवतिभिः पञ्चभिरपि प्रभिन्नाभिः शम्भो नवभिरपि मूलप्रकृतिभिः चतुश्चत्वारिंशत् वसुधरराश्र त्रिरेखाभिः सार्धं तव चरणकोणां परिणता त्वदीयं सौन्दर्यं तुहिन गिरिकन्ये तुलयितुम् कवीन्द्राः कल्पन्ते कथमपि विरिञ्चि प्रभृतयः यदा लोको सुख्यात् यान्ति मनसा तपोभिः दुष्प्रापाः गिरिषु सायुज्य कवीन्द्राणां चेतः कमल वनपालातक रुचिम् भजन्ते ये सन्तः कतिचित् करुणां मे भवति विरिञ्चि प्रियस्या तरुणतर शृङ्गार लहरी गभीराभिः वाग्भिः विदधति सतां रञ्जनमणि सवित्रीभिर्वाचां शशिमणि क्षीराभङ्गरुचिभिः वशिन्यां द्यात् त्वां सह जननी सञ्चिन्तयति यः सकर्ता काव्यानां भवति महतां रुचिभिः वचोभिः वाक्भिः वदन कमलामोद मधुरै मुखं बिन्दुं कृत्वा कुचयुगम् अधस्तस्य तदधो हरार्धं ध्यायेद्यो हरमहिषु ते मङ्गलम् ससत्य संशोभं नयति वनिताम् इत्यसिदपु त्रिलोकी मप्याशु भ्रमयति रविन्दु स्तनयुगाम् शिवः शक्तिः कामः क्षितिः रथः रविः शीतकिरणः स्मरो हंसश्चक्रम् तदनु च पराहार हरयः अमी हृल्लेखाभिः तिसृभिः अवसानेषु घटिता भजन्ते वर्णास्ते तव जननी नामावतम् गतिर्माणिक्यत्वं ददनं मणिभिः सान्द्रघटितम् किरीटं ते हिमगिरिसुते कीर्तयति यः। समीरे यच्छाया रणशबलं चन्द्रशतरम् धनुः शूलासीरे किमिति निबध्नाति धीषणम्। ललाटं लावण्यं द्युतिविमलम् आभाति तव द्वितीयं तन्मन्ये मुकुटघटितं चन्द्रशतरम्। विपर्यास न्यासाय उभयम् अपि सम्भूय च मिथः सुधारे पश्यन्ति परिणाम इति रागा हिमकरः। ध्रुवोऽग्नि किञ्चित् भुवनं भयभङ्ग व्यसनी त्वदीय नेत्राभ्यां मधुकर रुचिभ्यां धृतगुणम् धनुर्मन्ये सवेतरकरा गृहीतं रतिपतेः प्रकोष्ठे मुष्टौ च स्थगयति निगूढां अहं सुते सव्यं तव नयनम् अर्कात्मकतया प्रियामा वान्ते सृजति रजनीं नायकतया द्वितीयाते दृष्टिः दरदरित इमां भुजरुचिः समाधत्ते सन्ध्यां दिवसनिशयोः विशाला कल्याणी स्फुटरुचिः अयोध्यावरयिः कृपाधारा धारा किमपि मथुरा भोगवती भवन्ति दृष्टिस्ते बहुनगर विस्तार विजया नाम व्यवहरण योग्या विजयते कवीनां सन्दर्भस्तव मकरन्दैक रसिका कटाक्ष व्याक्षेप भ्रमरा कलह कर्णयुगल रसास्वाद तरलो असूया संसर्गात् अलिकलयनं किञ्चित् तरुणम् शिवे शृङ्गारात् तदितरजने उत्सनपरा सरोषा गङ्गायां गिरिशा चरिते विस्मयवती हराहिभ्यो भीता सरसिरुहा संभाग जननी सखीषु स्मिराते मयि जननी दृष्टिः सकरुणा दते कर्णाभरणं भरुतम् इव पक्ष्माणि दधति पुराम्भेतु चित्तप्रशमरस वित्रावणपदे गोत्राधरपति पुरोत्तम सकलिके तवाकर्णाकृष्ट स्मरशर विलासं कलयतः विभक्त दैवल्यं व्यतिकरित वीराञ्जन तया विभाति वितयमिदं ईशान दयिते पुनः सृष्टुः देवा द्रुहिणा हरिरुद्रा उपरता रजः सत्त्वं बिभ्रत्तमः इति गुणानां त्रयमेव पवित्रीकर्तुं पशुपति पराधीन हृदये दयामित्रैः मित्रैः अरुणा धवल श्याम रुचिभिः नदः शोणो गङ्गा तपनः तनयेति ध्रुवमः त्रयाणां तीर्थानाम् उपनयसि संभेद मनः निमेषो निशाभ्यां हृदयमुदयं याति जगति तवेत्याह सन्तो धरणीधर राजन्य तनये त्वदुन्मेषान् जातं जगदिदम् अशेषं प्रलयतः परित्रातुं शङ्के परिहृतनिमेषांस्तव दृशः। सरस्वत्या दक्षिणा विधिहरिः सपत्ना विहरति रते पातिव्रत्यं शिथिलयति रम्येण वपुषा चिरं जीवन्नेव शपितम् पशुपाशं व्यतिकरः परानन्दाभिख्यां रसयति रसं त्वद्भजनम्।
Now we'll just begin to do the balancing and grounding on your own. Please take care, everybody. Good night.